Hi and welcome or welcome back to The Books Are Everywhere. So today we're here with a video that I've been meaning to film for quite a while now, I've been thinking about for quite a while, and it is these books are going to self-destruct in 12 months. So this is a video theme that I think does go around on BookTube, and I think is originally kind of inspired by Becca and the Books. Specifically, she does a these books will self-destruct in 12 months video. But the idea of this is basically picking some books off your shelves that if you don't read in the next 12 months, you will unhaul. And I really need to do this because there are so many books on my shelf that I've had for so many years and I just need the motivation to actually pick them up. And I'm hoping that this will give me the motivation. So I've chosen 14 books that will self-destruct or I will have to unhaul if I don't read them by the 14th of April next year, because I picked these out yesterday. So that's a year to the day of when they will not be on my shelves anymore. And I picked 14, so we're going to go through them now. So the first book on this list is The 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, I think it's called in America, by Stuart Turton. This is one that I've had on my TBR for quite a while, but I am quite daunted by. The reason I haven't put it in a physical, like I'm not holding it, is because it's at the bottom of a very big stack of books that I can't be bothered to get it out of. But that one is my first pick because I feel like I just need the motivation to pick this one up. And also it's one of those books that I'm not sure if I'm going to enjoy. I've actually heard some quite negative things about the fact that it's fat phobic, because the idea of the book is that I think, oh, I don't know if that's a spoiler. No, it's not a spoiler. Okay, so one of the main characters wakes up in different bodies, and I think some of the comments that he himself makes about the bodies that he is in at some point is not very good. So I've heard that, so I'm like hesitant to kind of pick it up anyway, but I've heard quite good things and I would like to read it and just judge it for myself, but I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to enjoy it or not. So I've put it on this video. If it's still here in a year, then it will go. So this one is following Evelyn Hardcastle. I believe it's set in some kind of old house, like, yeah, she's like the daughter of the house, and she's killed at this party, and one of the guests at this party is Aidan, and he is summoned to Blackheath, which is the house, for the party, and he can solve her murder. So he goes into a different body of each guest. He wakes up in a different body of each guest every day, every time this day restarts, and this day will not stop restarting until he identifies who the killer is, but somebody is determined to prevent him from ever escaping. So it sounds like it has a really interesting premise and I do want to pick it up. I'm just not sure how I'm going to feel about it. The next book is The Island Home by Libby Page, and the reason I'm putting this one on here is because I know I'm going to enjoy this book. I love Libby Page's work. The Lido was like one of my favourite books of the year, if not my favourite book of the year that I read it in, which I think was 2020. And I really enjoyed the 24-hour cafe as well, so I just have no excuse to have not picked this one up yet because I've actually had it since it came out. The publishers sent me a proof copy when it came out, so I have no excuse. It is actually on my very top shelf on this shelf here, so that's why I haven't got it down for this video. Okay, so this one is following a mother and daughter unit called Lorna and Ella, and they suddenly leave London for this remote Scottish island of Kip, which is where Lorna grew up. There's also a woman called Alice who lives on the island of Kip, and she loves the community on the island. Then Lorna arrives, and her arrival might actually help the family finally mend itself, even if forgiveness means returning to the past. So I don't know if they're sisters, it doesn't actually say, but it does say 2 decades, hundreds of miles, and a lifetime worth of secrets between Lorna and the island. Can coming home mean starting again? I feel like this one's probably going to be very heartwarming and hopeful, and I just need to pick it up because I know I'll enjoy it. The next one is The Cat and the City by Nick Bradley. Again, I have had this one since it came out because the publisher sent me a proof copy, and this one came out I think a couple of years ago now. And this one is following our main character, who is a cat. She lives in Tokyo and she's basically weaving in and out of all of these people, so there is obviously a fast array of people who live in the city, including a homeless man who is squatting in an abandoned hotel, a shut-in hermit afraid to leave his house, a convenience store worker searching for love. And this cat encircles them all, drawing them ever closer. I feel like this one, it really appeals to me, but I feel like Japanese translated literature, which I'm not sure if this is translated or not. It says a love letter to Japan and its literature, so I'm not sure if it was originally written in English or not, but I feel like it can often read quite slow, and I feel like this one is going to be quite slow, and it's quite thick in comparison to some other books that I would think of similar, like The Guest Cat or She and Her Cat, which are only like under 200 pages. This one's like 300 pages, so I just feel like it's going to be a little slow, and for that reason it daunts me quite a lot. I don't really know why, but that's why I've put it on this video, because I just need something to force me to finally read it, because I'm probably going to enjoy it. The next one is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I've had this book for a while, but I've been hearing about it for so much longer. This has been on my radar for absolutely years, and I should have picked it up years ago, to be completely honest, and I still haven't, so I really need to, and I'm hoping the next year might be the time when I finally do. I only have the first book in the series, so I'd be happy just to pick up the first book in the series. This one is following Pip, or Pippa, who is a schoolgirl. I think she's 15? Not sure. She's in her final year of high school, I think, so maybe like 15, 16, and she chooses this project of kind of looking into this closed case of murder in her town, where a schoolgirl 5 years ago was murdered by Sal Singh, and the police knows he did it. Everyone in town thinks he did it, but Pip is not so sure, and she starts uncovering things in this project that she's doing about this murder. She thinks that someone in town desperately wants to stay hidden. If the real killer is still out there, how far will they go from keeping Pip from the truth? I think this one will be a really quick read. I just need to actually pick it up. Then we have Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. I have had this on my TBR for a very long time, and I've had this copy since the movie came out. I have seen the movie and I really did enjoy it, and I just feel like I will enjoy this too, but there's something about like adult sci-fi that just daunts me, and this font is tiny, so small, so it just daunts me. And also, like, I know when I've read this one I need to decide if I want to read Ready Player 2, and I don't want to read Ready Player 2 because I've heard really bad things about it, so maybe I should just say now that I will not read Ready Player 2. But, you know, I feel like once I've read this one I have to quickly make that decision, and I don't want to. So there are a couple of reasons why I haven't picked this up, but I just need to do it. But this one, if you are unaware, is like a gamified sci-fi. It's kind of set in this world where they can put on headsets. Honestly, I cannot remember much more than that. I remember the movie being like, I quite enjoyed it, and I feel like this one could be really fast-paced, but I just don't know. The synopsis is very short. It just says, imagine the world at stake, an epic struggle between good and evil, the greatest quest in history, the fate of humanity resting in your hands. Are you ready? And that's all it says on the book itself. But yeah, need to read it. The next one is The Court of Miracles by Kester Grant, and the main reason why this is on my TBR is because I have 3 copies of this, and it's been out for a couple of years now, and it was basically entirely a cover buy for me, and I have the Waterstones edition, this edition, which is like the Illumicrate edition, or the Fairy Loot, I think, is it? It's the Illumicrate edition. The only reason I know that is because there's a letter in here. I bought this secondhand anyway, and I do have the Goldsboro edition as well because they had like a sale for it when they had damaged copies, but I can't see any damage on mine at all. So I have 3 copies and I need to read it. There was, I'm sure, a second book coming out in this series. I'm sure it wasn't a standalone, and I wanted to read this before the second book came out, and now I have no idea if the second book has come out or is even coming now. But that was my original idea, is that I needed to decide whether I was going to get the second one or if I was going to get 3 copies of the second one, because, you know, this is beautiful and that's why I bought it, and it sounds really interesting. However, I've heard quite mixed things about it, and this one is a reimagining of Les Mis, which I have no knowledge really about, and I've not seen the play or the film. and I'm not really into historical that much, but it's a historical fantasy. It's set in Paris at the wake of the failed revolution, and among them, the most wretched have gathered into guilds of thieves, assassins and worse. They are known as the Court of Miracles. This is following two sisters, one of which is sold by their father to the Guild of Flesh, and this other sister makes a promise to do anything she can to get her sister back, even if it means joining the Court of Miracles, the very people who are keeping her sister a slave. Eponine, who is one of the sisters, becomes perhaps the greatest thief the court has ever known, finding a place among them and gaining another sister, Cosette. But she's never forgotten the promise she made, and if she's to have any hope of saving one sister, she will have to betray the other. This one could be really good, but yeah, I have heard kind of mixed things about it, and I just need to like force myself to read it and make my own opinion. Preferably before the second one comes out, if there's a second one even coming. There is a couple of books on here that I've put on here because I know that I would have really enjoyed them a couple of years ago, and I don't want to keep leaving it even longer to actually pick these up because they're teen. And this is one of them. I love The Hate You Give, and I also really love On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. I've read both of them, and I've had this one since it came out because the publisher, who is Walker, sent me this when it came out. This one is following, I think it's following, oh my gosh, what's her name? From The Hate You Give, the main character of The Hate You Give. I'm just thinking Star, but I think that's the main character in On the Come Up. But anyway, so this one is following Maverick Carter, who is 17 at the time of this book being set. So it's before the character of the main character of The Hate You Give is even born, and he is slinging drugs on the street, and then he finds out that he's a father and he's offered the chance to go straight and he takes it. But his dad is also in prison and his mom is working two jobs, and his dad is the King Lord, and when the King Lord's blood runs through your veins, you don't just get to walk away. I feel like I am still going to enjoy this, but I'm just at the point now where I'm like, books that are set around teen storylines don't always appeal to me as much as they once did, so I do want to read this sooner rather than later. And there are a couple of books on this list that I feel quite similarly about, so I'll talk about those next. The next one is Only Mostly Devastated by Sophie Gonzalez. I have heard so many good things about Sophie Gonzalez. All I know about this one is that it's a queer reimagining of Grease. So it's following Ollie and Will, who were in a summer fling. Now they're classmates, but only one of them is out. I've had this proof for maybe a couple of years. I didn't get it when it first came out in 2020, but I did get it like a year after or something like that. I'm not that familiar with the story of Grease, to be completely honest. I don't think I've seen it, but I've heard such good things about Sophie Gonzalez's writing, and I think me and Alex are planning to buddy read this one at some point, hopefully soon. The next one is Pudding, and I'm also putting Pumpkin on this list as well, kind of as a side thing, because this is the same series as Dumpling, and I really enjoyed Dumpling, but I'm not gonna lie, I think I preferred the movie ever so slightly. So I just feel like I'm not sure how I'm gonna feel about Pudding and Pumpkin. Well, Dumpling is such a heartwarming and lovely story, and I know I'm gonna enjoy this one too, but I feel like as I'm getting older it might just become a little less relatable for me. So this one is following Millie Michalchuk? Can't remember how to pronounce her name. She is one of the side characters in Dumpling, who I think, if I remember rightly, competes alongside the main character in the pageant that they compete in. She's gone to fat camp every year since she was a little kid, but not this year. She has new plans to chase her secret dream and to kiss the boy that she's been crushing on. Callie Reyes is the pretty girl who is next in line for dance team captain and has the popular boyfriend, but when it comes to other girls, she's more frenemy than friend. When circumstances bring the girls together over the course of a semester, they surprise everyone, especially themselves, by realising they might have more in common than they ever imagined. A story about unexpected friendship, romance and Texas-sized girl power. This is another winner from Julie Murphy. I know I'll enjoy this, I just don't know if I'm going to enjoy it as much as I want to enjoy it. And I feel like I'll come out of it wanting another movie adaptation and there isn't one, and it will make me sad. So I just need to read it at some point and read Pumpkin as well. The next one is The Rose and the Dagger by Renee Adair, and I have had this on my TBR. This is probably one of the oldest books on my TBR, to be completely honest. Like, I've probably had this for one of the longest times, because I read The Wrath and the Dawn, which was the first book in this duology, back in like 2015. and I never continued, and that's 8 years ago. That's insane. But at the time I loved it. Like, I loved it enough that I feel like even now I will enjoy it and I want to reread it so I can continue. Honestly, I can't remember too much about what these books are about. They're following Shazzy and Khalid, and I think it's a retelling of 1001 Arabian Nights. But that's all that's in my head right now, and I loved the first book so much and I really want to continue with it, but I know I'm gonna have to reread the first one. So, and I'm just hoping I do enjoy it as much as I did the first time, or like even half as much as I did the first time. The next one is 1,000 Pieces of You by Claudia Gray. This has been on my radar for like such a long time now, and I still haven't picked it up, even though I've had this copy for, I feel like it's been quite a while. I've loved this cover for such a long time too. I think my friend Pete might have given me this copy. I'm not sure now how long I've had it, but it's been a while. I think one of the reasons I haven't read this yet is because I know it's a series and I feel like I'll want to continue with them. So at some point I need to buy them. So yeah, it's a trilogy. It's following the daughter of two brilliant physicists. And she grew up surrounded by wild scientific theories, always encouraged to imagine the improbable or even the impossible. But then her father is murdered and Marguerite's life is turned upside down. All the evidence points to one person, Paul, who is her parents' handsome, enigmatic protege. Before the law can touch him, Paul uses Marguerite's mother's latest invention, a device called the Firebird, which allows people to leap into alternate dimensions to escape. With the help of another physics student, Theo, Marguerite chases Paul through various dimensions, determined to avenge her father. Her parents theorise that people who have met in one reality will be likely to meet in another, that key moments will happen over and over again in different ways. But she leaps into each new world. She meets another version of Paul who has her doubting his guilt and questioning her heart, before she realises what has happened to her father may be more complex and more sinister than she ever dreamed. Sounds like it's going to be really good and really, really interesting. Maybe more fast-paced than I think, so now I've actually read the synopsis again for that one because it's probably been quite a while. I do want to pick it up like straight away. The next one is The Keeper of Night by Kylie Lee Barker, and I've had this one since it came out, which was 2021. So Harper sent me this one a couple of years ago. Very sorry, I still haven't picked it up, but it sounds really interesting and I'm pretty sure there is another book out in this series now. This is following a half Reaper, half Shinigami soul collector who is seeking her destiny in this haunting must-read fantasy that's set in 1890s Japan. And she's been collecting souls of the London streets for centuries, expected to obey the harsh hierarchy of the Reapers who can despise her. Ren conceals her emotions and avoids her tormentors best she can. She's failing to control her growing Shinigami powers and she flees to Japan, accompanied by her younger brother, the only being on Earth to care for her. She seeks out the goddess of death to join her ranks, only to learn that here too she must prove herself worthy. With only her brother and an unreliable yet intriguing new ally at her side, Ren accepts an impossible task: find and eliminate 3 dangerous yokai demons, and she learns how far she'll go to claim her place at Death's side. Sounds like it could be really good, and I will probably want to read the second one, so I need to read it and then pick that one up too. And the last 2 books I can probably discuss together, and that's These Broken Stars by Amy Kaufman and Megan Spooner, and Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. I have my reserves about both of these because I loved Illuminae. Like, I loved Illuminae so much, but I really didn't like Gemina and Obsidio. And I think the reason for that is because I felt like they were just retelling the stories of the other 2 books. Like, that they were just retelling the story of Illuminae in the other 2 books, which just annoyed me. And I've kind of heard the same about this series, and I'm hesitant about this one because of it. But I have all of the books in both series. These are both sci-fi series. I think they both have some kind of underlying romance. And I have my reserves about both of them because of Illuminae and my feelings on Gemina and Obsidio. But I need to bite the bullet and read them because I've had this series for such a long time, probably like 5 years. I've had all of the books in this series, and I've been collecting these ones as they came out, so I do have all of them now. so I don't have an excuse anymore. I need to read both of these. Okay, so that's all of the 14 books I will need to read by next April, or they will self-destruct, fall off my shelves, and set on fire. No, they won't. They will be unhauled if I don't read them by the 14th of April next year. So I've got to do it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have anything like this as well, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.